Now we move on to Module 2, Part 3, all about the planning P. So what is the planning P? It is the operational planning for command activities. This slide has a lot of detail on it, and I will attempt to break it down in future slides. But as you can see, if you look at the letter P and you start at the bottom, it begins with whatever the incident or event is, and then we start with notification, etc. So that is your initial response. We will go over each. So let's begin with what happens in the initial response. You first are made aware that there has been an incident, an event, a disaster, a crisis. As we've discussed in earlier modules or lecture notes, it can take one of very many forms, but this is how we begin. So once an incident or event is occurring, you will receive some type of notification. And it also depends on what type of organization you're part of, but it will come in many forms. You might get phone calls. Certainly once incident happens, the news media is upon it. So you might be getting text messages about, oh my gosh, there's just been a chemical spill, or there's a major fire going on, or a natural disaster. So again, you'll receive notification in some format. And once you have been notified, then what is your response? Again, depends on type of organization. So that whatever part you play in your initial response, you ensure that an appropriate response is deployed. You're able to take patients, you're able to take burn victims, or you're part of the disaster and you need to evacuate. You will provide the direction as needed through your incident command center that we've talked about, and you'll continue to monitor whatever those initial responses are. They may have more victims than they thought. They may have less victims than they thought, and that will all alter how you respond to that incident. So you will determine your incident briefing, the time frame, and the manner in which it will occur. Usually your command center will have opened already and people are running to do their roles in that particular group. You will, as needed, get additional information. You will ask for clarifications. You'll determine how complex an incident is it, because that will help frame what your response will be. You will start providing direction to your team, and you will begin your incident command and determine who needs to be in charge of that. Again, depends on type of incident. And you'll determine who those players are in the unit command post. And interagency notifications as needed. You may need to be reaching out to suppliers that you know you're going to need more of X, Y, and Z. And you will also be briefing superiors, as there is usually one point of contact in your organization for the receiving of such information. So you'll have that initial unit command or command center meeting. So depending again on the type of incident, you'll finalize who needs to be part of that and what your overall response is as an organization, and also if you're going to need to involve other facilities. So for example, when you are part of a larger organization, pick a healthcare system, maybe one of your facilities has been affected. Maybe it was a tornado, maybe it was a flood. And often the receiving of patients might even be able to occur within your overall organization, or you might need to call upon others. And you're going to determine what your operational period is. And that again can change based on the type of incident. And you'll determine who will be your operations center chief and your deputy chief. And of course, you'll start making your initial key decisions. So as the incident continues to occur or has occurred and you're determining how best to respond to it, you will probably need to determine your priorities. And of course, if you've got patients that are in extreme harm's way or those that have significant issues, they will have already been sent to surgery if needed, etc. And you'll determine who you take care of when and how and where. You'll identify what constraints and limitations you have. Once your ER is full, you may have to go on what a lot of organizations have a particular color code for, but so that you're bypassed. You'll determine what your objectives are in managing this incident, and you'll determine what your procedures, etc., will be in coping with the incident. And your incident command post will also agree on how you're going to operate, what you're going to be doing, and any guidelines they may wish to establish for the unit commanders, the unit managers out taking care of various parts of what has happened. And you'll agree on what capacity you have in terms of how much workload you can handle based on available staff. So continuing to move up the planning P. So you'll meet, brief command and general staff on what directions you're taking, your objectives and priorities, and assigning of work tasks to be accomplished. And this can vary considerably as the needs wax and wane or become more immediate, depending on whether you now are receiving more patients because somebody else could not. And you'll always be resolving your problems and clarifying the roles and responsibilities as the incident continues along. So now you're preparing for your tactics meeting. Some of you will be meeting one-on-one with the command center and determining what your follow-up assignments are and getting further guidance, clarification, and ongoing briefings as the incident continues to play out or the disaster does. So tactics meetings led by the operations chief. So you determine, now some of these forums are specific to the whole incident command structure that this particular organization has put in place. So they have certain forms that they use. Incident command does not attend, but checks in with command and general staff after your tactics meeting has occurred. So now you're preparing for your planning meeting. So who will present your response, the emphasis and motivation remarks, keeping the staff engaged and just appreciating the work they're doing because everybody's under additional stress. You'll review your task assignments, your objectives, decisions, and directions. And again, you will continue to receive your briefings, which are critically important throughout an incident situation. So your planning meetings. You review your response plan to make sure that everything's being followed as planned. Hate to keep using the same word. You'll provide further guidance and resolve any issues you have. You'll give tacit approval of the proposed plan, and you will agree when the written plan will be ready for review and approval. So prep and reapproval. So you'll review the plan for completion, make necessary changes as needed, and you'll approve the plan for going forward. Operations briefing. So again, these keep happening because the incident is ongoing. So you'll continue to provide guidance and clarify any questions that have come up. Leadership presence, and again, keep the team motivated. I can't stress this enough that when you're in the midst of an incident, those whom you trust and respect, they need to provide encouragement and keep the people focused on the task, because often incidents come with a lot of heartache. People lose their lives. Structures are damaged, livelihoods are damaged, so anybody that can keep the team motivated is just a blessing. And you'll emphasize the response philosophy of how your organization approaches this whole issue. And finally, you'll execute your plan and assess progress. You're going to continue to monitor what's happening, reviewing how things are getting done, continue with your briefings, looking at the work and changes that need to be made during the current time frame as well as any future time frames, and you'll continue to do your updates. So you'll keep going around this square until the incident is over, and then you can do your debrief and what I often call a post-mortem. So that's it for the planning P.